ចារ្យភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសនិស្សិតទាំងអស់ដែលអញ្ជើញចូលរួមនៅក្នុងកម្មវិធីនេះជាទីគោរពនិងជាទីមេត្រីនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះដែររាជមន្ត្រីសភាកម្ពុជាមានកិត្តិយសដ៏ក្រៃលែងដោយបានទទួលវត្តមានឯកឧត្តមបណ្ឌិតយងពៅអគ្គលេខាធិការនៃរាជមន្ត្រីសភាកម្ពុជាជាអធិបតីនៅក្នុងកម្មវិធីបឋកថាមួយដែលស្ដីអំពីការកសាងសន្តិសុខតាមអ៊ីនធឺណិតការការពារការបោកប្រាស់តាមប្រព័ន្ធអនឡាញនៅកម្ពុជាដែលរៀបចំដោយរាជមន្ត្រីសភាកម្ពុជានាពេលនេះនៅខណៈពេលនេះដែរសូមអង្គពិធីទាំងមូលអនុញ្ញាតឲ្យអ្នកខ្ញុំជម្រាបជូននៅរបៀបវិរៈនៃកម្មវិធីដែលមានដូចតទៅគោរពទង់ជាតិនៃសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនិងព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាចំណាប់អារម្មណ៍ដោយឯកឧត្តមបណ្ឌិតយងពៅអគ្គលេខាធិការនៃរាជមន្ត្រីសភាកម្ពុជាចំណាប់អារម្មណ៍ដោយលោកស្រី Katherine M Diop ជាទីប្រឹក្សាផ្នែកកិច្ចការសាធារណៈរបស់ស្ថានទូតសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកប្រចាំនៅព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាការធ្វើបទបង្ហាញដោយលោក Scott Augenbaum ជាអ្នកជំនាញការការពារលួចទិន្នន័យនៅ Cyber Security Mindset ដែលស្ដីអំពីការកសាងសន្តិសុខតាមអ៊ីនធឺណិតនិងការការពារការបោកប្រាស់តាមប្រព័ន្ធអនឡាញនៅកម្ពុជាកម្មវិធីសំណួរចម្លើយនិងយើងបិទកម្មវិធីថតរូបរួមគ្នាជាអនុស្សាវរីយ៍ជាកិច្ចចាប់ផ្ដើមនេះតាំងនាមឲ្យគណៈកម្មការរៀបចំកម្មវិធីនាងខ្ញុំសូមអនុញ្ញាតគោរពអញ្ជើញឯកឧត្តមបណ្ឌិតអគ្គលេខាធិការនិងអង្គពិធីទាំងមូលមេត្តាក្រោកឈរឡើងដើម្បីគោរពទង់ជាតិនៃសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនិងព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាគោរពទង់ជាតិគោរពចាសូមថ្លែងអំណរគុណនិងសូមសម្រួលឥរិយាបថចាជាកិច្ចបន្តទៅនេះនាងខ្ញុំមានកិត្តិយសសូមអនុញ្ញាតគោរពអញ្ជើញឯកឧត្តមបណ្ឌិតយងពៅអគ្គលេខាធិការនៃរាជមន្ត្រីសភាកម្ពុជាថ្លែងចំណាប់អារម្មណ៍ស្វាគមន៍សូមអនុញ្ញាតគោរពអញ្ជើញ
បាយគុំគុណចាស់គ្រប់អង្គជំរាបសួរញៀវអន្តរជាតិបងប្អូននិស្សិតបានដោយសារតែយើងមិនមានការបកប្រែដូច្នេះសូមអនុញ្ញាតអានសន្ទរកថាជាភាសាអង់គ្លេសដែលមានព្រៀងទុកសូមអធិស្ឋានឲ្យសង្ឃឹមថានិស្សិតយើងទាំងអស់សុទ្ធតែចេះភាសាអង់គ្លេសហើយអញ្ចឹងมันជាបញ្ហាទេហើយបើយើងនិយាយភាសាខ្មែរភ្ញៀវរបស់យើងស្ដាប់អត់តន់ស្ដាប់អត់បានมันគ្រប់ជ្រុងជ្រោយពីព្រោះ speak ខ្ញុំក៏ជា speak បានព្រៀងទុកអញ្ចឹងអាចយកអានបានជាភាសាខ្មែររកអានបានបាទ Warmly welcome Miss Katherine Jones, Chief of Public Affairs U.S. Embassy in Cambodia. Mr. Scott Augenbaum, cybercrime expert of US. Dear Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, dear student participants, today it is my great honor to officially open the important program under the theme of building cybercrime, protecting against online scam in Cambodia, held on Tonle Sap Hall of Royal Academy of Cambodia. In this rapidly advancing digital era, internet, digital technology, and social media have become an integral part of the daily life of Cambodian people, whether in work, education, communication, or even business activity. However, alongside these significant benefit, news and increasingly serious have emerged, particular online scam. In Cambodia, we have continuously witnessed reports of scam conduct via phone call, electronic message, social media platforms, fake investment scams, romance scam, and other forms of online frauds. This crime has caused self-harm to citizens, not only financially, but also physically. Both international and domestic reports indicate that such a scam do not only affect individuals, but also pose risk to social security, economic stability, and international reputation of Cambodia. In recent time, the royal government of Cambodia, under the leadership of Samdech Bawor Mahathir Prime Minister Hun Manet, has taken strongly decisive measures to combat online scam operation. This includes crackdown on hundreds of scam centers and arrest of thousands of suspects and close cooperation with many foreign countries to suppress this crime. This action clearly demonstrates the government firm's commitment to protecting citizens. The program has been organized with the following objective: to raise public awareness of danger and various forms of online scams that are increasingly prevalent, to share professional insight and experience from renowned expert Mr. Scott Augenbaum, and former FBI special agent with over 30 years of experience in investigating cybercrime and who has interviewed more than 1,000 scam victims. To present simple yet highly effectively measures for self-protecting against cyber threat, to encourage everyone to actively implement cybercrime measures at home and its workplace, cyber becomes strong and human farewell in cyberspace. The Royal Academy of Cambodia has a leading research institution and hub of intellectual. It honors cooperate with U.S. embassies in Cambodia to promote awareness and protection against digital threat. We firmly believe that through the knowledge sharing of practical action, we have reduced risk and build secure, trustworthy digital society for the Cambodian people. Finally, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Scott for the sharing his virtual experience and extend my thanks to all organizers, partners, participation for their strong support and cooperation. In closing, I wish all distinguished national and international guests good health, happiness, and great success in all Advocate, thank you so much for your kind.
ចាសសូមគោរពថ្លែងអំណរគុណយ៉ាងជ្រាលជ្រៅអាយដាមអគ្គលេខាធិការនៃរាជរដ្ឋសភាកម្ពុជាជាបន្តទៅទៀតនេះនាងខ្ញុំសូមអនុញ្ញាតគ្រប់អញ្ជើញលោកស្រី Katherine M Diop ទីប្រឹក្សាផ្នែកកិច្ចការសាធារណៈរបស់ស្ថានទូតសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកប្រចាំនៅប្រជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាថ្លែងនៅចំណាប់អារម្មណ៍ចាសូមអនុញ្ញាតគ្រប់អញ្ជើញ So next please welcome Ms. Katherine M Diop and she is the counselor for the public affairs of the US Embassy in Phnom Penh, Cambodia to deliver her remarks.
Chimnip sur deng aknia. Sok sabai? Sabai jet maudini tingaini. Pontai knyom rin pisa kamai. Aloni knyom nie ne pisa anglais. Okay? Dr. Yang Po, Secretary General of the Royal Academy of Cambodia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh, I'm so pleased to be a part of the welcome to all of you today as part of our U.S. Speakers Program through the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh. We again are very grateful to the Royal Academy of Cambodia for your partnership to host this important program this morning. We are proud to have Mr. Scott Augenbaum, a leading cybersecurity expert with decades of experience in combating online crimes. Dr. Yang Po just discussed with us the importance of this issue globally, and I think we all have a lot to learn this morning. Mr. Augenbaum is a cybercrime prevention expert at Cybersecure Mindset. He is also a retired special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as the FBI, with over 30 years of service focused on cybercrime, computer intrusion investigations, and other aspects, including managing a national task force on cyber and intellectual property programs. He is an author and an excellent speaker. He has written a book called The Secret to Cybersecurity, and I know we're all eager to find out what that secret is. I'm sure that Scott will tell us about it this morning. This week, we have invited Mr. Augenbaum to Cambodia to engage with business leaders, with law enforcement, academics, government officials, and Cambodians who want to know more, share best practices, and technical expertise for how to prevent and disrupt cybercrime and combating this important issue. As cyber threats grow more sophisticated globally and cross international borders, it is so essential that we all work together and really protect ourselves, our communities, our businesses, and our families. I hope that you will enjoy today's presentation. I wanted again to emphasize that Mr. Augenbaum is a private U.S. citizen and that his independent views and opinions do not represent those of the U.S. government necessarily. So we're eager to learn from him. Please join me in helping to welcome Mr. Scott Augenbaum, who will share his insight and his practical steps and all build stronger cyber resilience together. Som Okun.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Do you see the big smile on my face? That is because I am retired from the FBI. I had an amazing 30-year career, and it is such an honor and a privilege to be here today at the Royal Academy of Cambodia. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited to be able to share my experiences with you today with one goal, and that is to arm you with information to help you protect yourself, your family, and your businesses from cybercrime. The cybercrime problem is a huge global threat, and the cyber criminals do not care who you are. They don't care if you live in the United States or Japan or China or Cambodia. In the old days, the cyber criminals were only targeting very wealthy individuals, and they were targeting large organizations. But today, they will target anyone for opportunity. And I see this all the time, and that's what I want to share with you today, the devastation of cybercrime. But this message isn't here to scare you. But I'm going to be honest, I am going to scare you a little bit today. But it's only to change your behavior. It's a message of hope. It's a message of empowerment. And it's also a message of cooperation between the United States government and our friends in Cambodia. Because one of the things that I've learned during my decades with the FBI is it takes a community to stay safe. Is everyone here familiar with the FBI? The FBI, you know, if you watch the shows on television, they look like Abercrombie and Fitch models. In real life, they look like me. I'm a little too old to be with the FBI today because I'm 58 years old. I retired when I'm 50. Let me tell you a little bit about the FBI. It is the federal law enforcement agency in the United States responsible for violations of federal laws. The FBI has FBI agents all around the world in different embassies, and we are invited guests. And we work very, very closely with our law enforcement partners. I became an FBI agent when I was 27 years old. And if you would ask me to describe the role of the FBI in 1995, which was a long time ago, it was really, really easy to explain. There were bad people who were criminals, and they did bad things which were criminal violations. And they did it to good people, just like us, who were the victims. And I worked together, because the FBI, we don't do our job by ourselves. I worked with state, local, other foreign law enforcement agencies, and we put bad guys in jail. Just like you see in the movies. What a fun and exciting job for me as a 27-year-old with a gun, a badge, a bulletproof vest, a car with lights and sirens, and I was having the time of my life. Because the harder I worked, the more bad people I put in jail, and I made a difference in the community. But then all of a sudden, cybercrime came around in probably the mid-1990s. And since I was the only agent in the office who had a home computer in 1997, I became the cybercrime expert for the FBI in my office. And it wasn't the job I wanted. I was the young new agent in the office, and it was not the fun and sexy kind of job that you wanted to work with in the FBI. Within the FBI, we have women. In my office, we had 8 FBI agents in Syracuse, New York, and we had 2 women. One of them was on the drug task force, which was chasing down drug dealers, and that was really cool and really exciting. And then we had another one who was working white-collar crime and fugitives. White-collar crime was economic crime, which bad guys don't put a gun to your head, but they trick you out of your money. And also working fugitives who were bad guys who were running away from law enforcement. Those were both very, very exciting jobs. And within the FBI, unfortunately, among your peers, you were judged by the violations that you worked. And let me just say, cyber was not the cool, sexy type of job to have. Because in the early days, we were chasing amateurs, we were chasing thrill seekers, we were chasing kids who were hacking into the Pentagon. I remember one day a call from one of our government partners saying that there was a college student at one of the local universities who was trying to gain unauthorized access to one of the really sensitive government locations. And they called me up and they told me to neutralize the threat. Anyone want to tell me, what do you think it means when you say to neutralize a threat? You can call it out. See, when you speak for a living and you want to have a drink of water, you just ask questions. He said, neutralize the threat. Well, you know, a lot of times that doesn't means take them out. But we couldn't take, you know, we sat there and I explained to the kid that this was going to cause a lot of problems in his life, kind of yelled at him a little bit, and I can tell you he never used a computer again. But that's what we were dealing with. We were dealing with thrill seekers. We were dealing with amateurs. But cybercrime took a sinister turn in 1999 because we started doing business on the internet. And when the bank robbers would rob a bank, they would rob the bank because that's where the money was. Today, or starting in the mid-90s, the money was in online platforms. And what were the bad guys doing? They were going after the money. The events of September 11th changed the FBI forever. It changed the global world forever, because the #1 priority for most agencies globally was preventing acts of terrorism. The #2 priority was counterintelligence, foreign governments stealing state secrets. And the #3 priority for the FBI became cybercrime, protecting the U.S. infrastructure. Because today, cyber criminals can just take out power grids. They can take out water utilities. So the threat became so much more real. In 2002, the FBI formed the cyber division at FBI headquarters to combat this emerging threat. And I went to Washington, D.C. And there was one term that I would say back in the early 2000s, and I still say it to this day: there are no boundaries in cyberspace. In the old days, when I was a young FBI agent, crime was a localized problem, just like with you all. You know, you had to worry about someone breaking into your house, maybe stealing your motorbike, or stealing, you know, your mother's pocketbook, which happens all the time, unfortunately, in New York City. Crime was localized. But now we start seeing to crime gravitating online. And all of a sudden, everybody in the world has one of these. And with one of these devices, we are all able to become victimized. In 2006, I was promoted. I became a supervisor within the FBI's, I managed a squad of FBI agents in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was responsible for all federal violations in one of the states. And in 2006, 2007, it was a really it was still a sleepy time for the cyber threat. It really was not taking off. But then about 2010, we started seeing Russian organized crime, crime from West Africa, starting to victimize people all over the world, not just the United States. Back in the early 2000s, you know, the United States was the only real country that really had technology. The world has changed so much in 25 years, and we started addressing these violations because now the cyber criminals in foreign countries were able to go over and start victimizing citizens in other countries. The threat kept changing over time, and, you know, I had the opportunity to interview almost 1,000 cybercrime victims. I had the opportunity to sit down, meet these people face to face, feel their pain, understand what it was like to become a victim. And from that, I was able to go out and develop what I called the 4 truths of cybersecurity. The first truth is none of my victims ever expected to be a victim. They did not think they fit the victim profile. And every time someone lost their money, their life savings, or a company had a data breach, they would all say to me, I can't believe this happened to me. How did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? Does anyone here, I want you to raise your hand, do you think you're going to be the victim of a cybercrime incident in the next week? Is there anyone here who does? Okay, I need people to interact with me here. So raise your hand if you don't think you're going to be a victim. Okay, someone else. Okay, let me get another show of hands. Is there anyone here who doesn't use their phone to pay for things? Do we all pay cash when we go to the store? I'm new to Cambodia. How do we pay for things in Cambodia? Online, right? What do? Do we scan things? Right. Okay. That's how easy it is. And we're going to talk about these things together. Because now, you know, I was amazed because I'm the only one who's paying with cash, and I'm the only one paying a credit card. I walked in, and you know, in the United States, every once in a while, I see the foreigners come in, and they're fumbling around trying to pay for it. I'm that person now, because all of a sudden, I'm like sitting here trying to pay cash, trying to pay credit card, and you all are in so much more of a digital advanced society, I hate to say it, than we are in the United States. So that is the whole thing, and I want you to think about this, because someone's going to say, I don't have a lot of money in my bank account, right? It doesn't matter to me. The cyber criminals aren't going to target me. And that's the behavior we need to change. Because the cyber criminals do not care how much money you have in your bank account. You know, I would sit here with my mom, who's 91 years old, and my mother would say to me, Scott, why do you keep talking to me about cybercrime? I don't have a lot of money in my bank account. And I would say, Mom, you know, now I'm the parent and she's the kid at that age, and I would say, Mom, what would you do if all of your money was gone? And she's like, that's very bad. Okay, so that's how I want you to think about that in a second. And we're going to walk through some of these crimes. We're going to walk through that. But number one, nobody ever expects to be a victim. The second truth to cybercrime, and this is in the United States and globally, when the bad guys are able to steal your money, or maybe they're able to trick you into sending money through social engineering, which we're going to talk about, when you report that to local law enforcement, I hate to say it, the chances of law enforcement getting your money back is slim to none. I had a situation recently where I had a victim in a cybercrime case who was tricked. She got a telephone call, and it looked like it came from her bank. And the bank said that there was a problem with her bank account, that the cyber criminals were trying to steal her money. But she felt confident the telephone with caller ID said it was her bank, so she believed it. At that point, they tricked her into accepting an email from her bank. Just think about it. what would go through your mind if you got a call from your bank saying that there was a problem? She clicked on a link in an email, and they were able to get access to her bank account and see how much money she had. They tricked her. They tricked her into going to the bank branch and withdrawing money from her account. So she voluntarily went to the bank because she was tricked, took out $50,000 in US currency, and they told her it was the bank security department, and this woman was a very well-educated woman. You know, when you hear about this story, you go like this: how did anyone do something like this? But they tricked her through social engineering. She took that money and she went over and deposited it into another bank account controlled by a cyber criminal. She thought she was putting it into another bank for safekeeping. By the time she figured out it was a scam, they tracked the money was withdrawn from that account. And that money was put into cryptocurrency and was sent around the world. One of the most painful things about my job, and I've done this, you know, I've been retired, but I'm still an advocate for victims, was they come to me and they say, Scott, can you help me get my money back? And we know the answer to that question. The answer is no. And when you sit here with someone who is financially devastated by this, it makes you feel very, very powerless. And I've dealt with this during my career. That's truth number two. The third truth to cybersecurity is putting the bad guys in jail is very, very challenging, because cyber criminals aren't victimizing people in their own country. They are doing it in other countries. And that becomes very, very challenging for law enforcement, because we have issues, we have jurisdictions. This is why the U.S. Embassy is here to work with other foreign governments and other countries to be able to put these things together. But it takes time. Different countries have different laws. In the United States, it's very, very easy for U.S. law enforcement to go to a large bank and get that banking information, which I did on numerous occasions. Like in this situation, I tracked the money down to a bad guy's bank account in the U.S. It took a couple of weeks, but then we were able to track the money down to a bank account in Australia. And then it took more time because we had to work with the Australian authorities. We finally figured that out. We saw that the money was transferred to Mumbai. And from there, it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and the resources just are not there to put these bad guys in jail. Let me get you straight. The FBI, the United States Secret Service, working with our Cambodian law enforcement partners and partners around the world, are still arresting people. But it's such a large problem. So what have we learned so far? You become the victim of cybercrime, you're not getting your money back. The chances of putting bad guys in jail is very, very challenging. I want to ask you as an audience, and I never take no for an answer when the audience doesn't engage in me, how does that make you feel? I love uncomfortable silence. I'm not going to continue my presentation until somebody answers me. How does it make you feel? What's that? Sad or mad? Yeah. It makes people feel hopeless. It makes people feel powerless. It makes people feel depressed. But one of the things that I've learned, and I learned this probably in 2016, I was working with a cybercrime victim. The victim was looking to invest money. He went over to Google and he typed in the search term investment opportunity. The #1 hit on Google was from an individual who claimed to be an investment advisor. That's why we have to be very careful when we search Google. The cyber criminals set up a phony website and tricked him into interacting, and he thought he was talking to a real investment advisor. The investment advisor talked to him, and because he went to the website. The website looked beautiful. The website showed an office building. It looked like a legitimate thing. He spoke online through Zoom to the investment advisor, who seemed like a real nice person, and the investment advisor tricked him into investing $700,000 into his bank account. Again, you might say it's not $700,000, but think about how much money is enough money for it to hurt your family financially, okay? Because I've seen people lose a little bit of money, but if that little bit of money is your life savings, the cyber criminals don't care. So we opened up an investigation and we tracked the money. And we followed the money, and eventually we lost track of the money in the country of Georgia. Okay, we have FBI agents in the country of Georgia, but we don't have any treaties with the country of Georgia. But we worked with local law enforcement. We had great working relationships, and someone from the Russian Federation was coming down once a week, picking up the money and going back. And the Russian government was not working with us. So I had to sit with the family, and I had to explain to the family that we're not getting their money back. We're not putting people in jail. Now, when I joined the FBI to help people. And here I am, I'm with the family, and they're really upset. And who can blame them? Who can blame them? Just think about it. Just think about your family. If all of a sudden there was no justice, there was no one to help you, and I'm sitting in this meeting with them, and they do not want to take no for an answer. We deal with this all the time. They don't want to take no for an answer. You're the FBI. You should be able to help us. Don't tell us you can't help us. What if it was your family? And you would see the panic in their eye. And that's when I learned, and I had the epiphany, which I call the fourth truth to cybersecurity, because I wanted to put my arm around the victim and say, if your dad just would have done these couple of things, these couple of steps, they wouldn't have become a victim. But we can't blame victims. But now, today, I know that if I've discovered that almost all of my cases that I worked on, not all of them, easily could have been prevented if my end users were only armed with a couple of key pieces of information. So my last 2 years of the FBI, I went out and I did hundreds and hundreds of presentations during my last 2 years. I knew it was my mission to go out there and to arm people with pieces of information that will help protect them. But I've had a very frustrating journey in the fact, how do I convince people that they need to do things to stay safe? And these things that they need to do, they don't cost money. We're not talking about today you need to go out and buy a product. You just need to take a couple of steps. Now, if I had a time machine and I could go back in time, I could have helped most of my victims. But are time machines real? Can we go back in time? Has anyone figured out one? Is there one on the internet? We can't go back in time. But we can keep ourselves safe. And that's what I want to really do and spend the next, an hour, 45 minutes talking to you and explaining to you the steps that you need to take to keep yourself and to keep your family safe. And I even wrote a book about it called The Secret to Cybersecurity, a simple plan to protect your family and business from cybercrime. And I'm going to train all of you today to become investigators. And because if you can figure out how to send me a message on my website with your email address, I will send you a copy of my book. I have it in an audio version, and I have it in the PDF version, and there's a bunch of things on my platform. So if you go to, and I'm going to give you the name of my website, Cyber Secure Mindset. It's 3 words together.com. Cyber, C-Y-B-E-R. Secure, S-E-C-U-R-E. Mindset, M-I-N-D-S-E-T.com. Okay? That's it. That's the clue that you're getting today. CyberSecureMindset.com, and there's a place to message me. And if you message me and you tell me you heard me today, when I'm on my very long plane ride back to the United States with internet, it'll give me something that'll keep me busy to do. So when we called the book The Secret to Cybersecurity, and I wrote it 7 years ago, I didn't really have it sounded like a catchy title, right? Don't you want to know the secret to cybersecurity? And, you know, when I told people about it, they go, what's the secret? So I would respond, I go, you have to read it to find the secret. But today, years later, I know the secret. The secret is that most cybercrime easily could have been prevented if my end users were only armed with a few key pieces of information. And in my book, I have 18 different chapters, and after the chapter, I have key points to avoid becoming the next victim of a cyber crime incident. And here's the very frustrating thing for me. When I go out and I do talks and I tell people I'm going to give them the book, not a lot of people take me up on the opportunity. You know, I did a presentation one day. I had 500 people, and I gave them access to it, and maybe 30 people took me up out of 500. And then I said, what did I do wrong? How come, what did I do that I couldn't convince them to do it? But then I realized I was able to keep 30 people safe. One of the things that I learned is we can only help those who want to help themselves. So I gave you the clue, okay? You could also find me on LinkedIn and that stuff. I do videos all the time on how to stay safe without spending money. But let's go into a couple of these practical steps that if I had the opportunity to do it. The number one tool in the cyber criminals tool belt is something called social engineering. Tricking people into doing something they normally wouldn't do in order to take advantage of people. And today, through technology, it's making it so much easier. When I used to do presentations about 10 years ago, I would say email is the number one weapon of the cyber criminal. It's the tool. And we get tricked by it because we're not going to get an email that looks like it's coming from a cyber criminal. We're going to get an email from somebody we know. We're going to get an email from somebody we trust. And they're going to tell us to click on a link in an email. In the United States, one of the biggest scams that we see all the time is You get an email from Amazon. Everyone here familiar with what Amazon is in the United States? It's kind of like Alibaba. It's, you know, you get everything shipped to you. Everyone is using Amazon for everything. So what do the cyber criminals do? They have access to everybody's email. So imagine for a second, somebody gets an email from Amazon saying that your package has been delayed in shipping. Please click on the link to rectify the situation. What do you think most people do when they get that email? They click on the link. Or here's the other one with a little bit more pressure. You get an email from Amazon and it says, hey, we're in receipt. We just want to let you know that you just bought a Panasonic big screen television for $2,700 and you're shipping it to someone else's house. Talk about panic when you get that. That's what the bad guys are doing. And there's so many different stories about that, and they're all in the book, so you got to read those stories if you want to hear more about that type of stuff. But it's just not alone, because so what do? We have to think before we click. We have to think before we act. Very important, because if you click on the link in the email, it could steal the username and password for your account. And what do you think the bad guys can do if they get access to your username and password? They're going to get access to everything. But they don't just use Amazon. They just don't use emails. Even if you can say that, you're going to get a text message. So now, what do you think goes through my mind if all of a sudden I get a text message from my American Express card or my Visa card or my bank account and says, hey, somebody just tried to get access to your account. Click on the link. A lot of people click on the link. Now they're going to say you, and this is something that's very big in the United States, there's a problem with your bank account. Someone just tried to withdraw money. Please call this telephone number. There is no link to call. There is no link to click. So what happens? You call the 1-800 number, and it says, please provide us with your credit card number, your CVV, which is your security code, as well as your expiration date. What do you think the bad guys can do if they got access to information on my bank card? You think, are they going to put money in my account? Of course not. And here's another scam that we get all the time. So we have that. We have telephone calls, too. So now in the United States, which is really, really big, is you're going to get a call that's going to look like it's coming from your local police agency. And they're going to tell you that you missed jury duty, or we have a camera up and we see that you went through a red light, and if you don't pay the fine, we're going to send someone to your house and you're going to go to jail. That's kind of stressful, wouldn't you think? I mean, that happened to my niece. She called me up, and I was like, it's a scam. It's a scam. Don't do anything at all. And every once in a while, it's really funny because the scammers will call me and engage with me and that stuff. So if you're ever getting these telephone calls, because they look like they're real. They look like they're coming from Apple. They look like they're coming from Google. They look like they're coming from legitimate people. Someone in authority will not call you and ask you for your sensitive information, and they are not going to ask you for your username and password. If you ever get one of these calls, it's most likely a scam. And if you don't think it's a scam and you're really concerned, call the local number for whoever it is that's calling you. So on my cell phone, I have a list of telephone numbers. So if I get something from the bank, I don't accept it. So that's very, very important that we do that. Another thing that we're seeing is social media scams. We're seeing scams on Facebook and on TikTok and on Instagram. That is where the cyber criminals are going. And the big ones that really are hitting us in the United States and probably here too are going to be investment scams. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Today, the cyber criminals are on dating platforms. They are, and I have a whole chapter on romance scams in my book, where people are meeting, you know, it's hard enough to meet people online, but today, there's so many fake profiles on there, and all the bad guys are trying to do is trick you. I had a situation where I had a woman who was a lawyer who was tricked by a cyber criminal who she thought was a very wealthy and businessman over in Australia. They communicated online. This is woman was divorced, very, very well educated. The cyber criminal played her emotions for weeks and then said, hey, I'm going to come to the United States and I want to meet you and I want to be with you. He kept delaying it. And then he said to her, look, I'm about to get a very, very large inheritance. What I'd like to do is have you help me save on taxes. Can we deposit the money into your bank account, and then once you get that money, can you send it over to this other account? She loved the guy. She said, of course, I'll do this for you. So all of a sudden, $1 million goes into her account. She sends that $1 million to another account. And 3 days later, she learned that it was a cyber criminal who stole $1 million from a law firm, and that money went through her account to another account. Now, the law firm tried to pull the money back out of her account, and she had her own money in the account, and then she realized that she was responsible for she was responsible for $1 million. Just think about that. This person was looking for love, and they don't report it to law enforcement. And this is in the book. This is a story that I dealt with, and it's hard for these victims. They don't want to come forward with that. So we have to realize that social engineering is the #1 tool in the cyber criminals tool belt. Does anyone want to share with me what are some other types of social engineering scams that are going on today in Cambodia? Come on, I can't be the only one talking over here. This is the interactive discussion. I hear somebody. Anybody? Come on. So who's going to help? Who's going to help? Who's going to help me out here today? Yes, thank you for saving me.
First of all, I would like to pay my respect to Professor Augenbaum, Mr. Katherine, and Mr. Scott. And today I have one question, as a Cambodian citizen, one question that really been into my head they've been living in my head rent-free, and I've been very curious.
I hope I can help you, okay? This is a lot of pressure you're putting on me here.
I've seen in social media, especially Facebook or Instagram, they've been posting for charity, for donation, seeking attention, and target most of the audience to make them feel pity, and they mostly pay through QR code. So
Okay.
how can you stop from a...
That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. And I'm going to do my best over here to try to answer it. There's one thing that I realized: we cannot control or stop what the cyber criminals are going to do. Okay? They are going to continue to do bad things. What we can control is how we react to this. So if you're going to donate money to charity, make sure it's a legitimate charity, okay? And now through the use of artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT, they're going to figure out what I like to say is a hook, okay? A hook to make you feel vulnerable. And everybody uses these types of hooks. So you're going to look at something and it's going to break your heart. And they're not going to ask for a lot of money. But if they can get 1 million people to donate $1, they're going to take advantage of it. So charity scams are very, very big. And if you didn't mention that, I wouldn't even talk about that. So thank you for bringing that up. Again, when we scan QR codes, we have to make sure they're going to a legitimate source. So, okay, you're going to scan your QR code at a restaurant. That's really good, but make sure it's a legitimate thing. In the United States, this is the scam that gets pulled up. It's all about, for us, we don't have mopeds. We all have cars. They're all really expensive. And parking is always very expensive. So what does everyone use? They use QR codes. So what has happened where I live is the cyber criminals go out, they print their own QR codes for their own bank account. Where the legitimate QR code is, they take their QR code, they slap it on, so then when you go to pay for parking, you're putting money into their account. And by the time you realize that, that's too late. That's another form of social engineering. And I know it kind of sounds hopeless, but I talk about that. I have a chapter in my book all about social media safety. So great question, and take time if there's going to be any other questions, or if anyone can come up with a better question than yours, because yours was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. That was great. Okay, so social engineering, #1 tool in the cyber criminals tool belt. And that's what I wish I could have told my victims beforehand. Before you send money, before you do it. I hate to say it, the cyber criminals are throwing so many different types of scams at us. And through artificial intelligence, which is machine learning, they're doing it at such a quick pace. And that's why we have to be really careful. There's one scam going around the United States where Brad Pitt, who is the famous actor, they're using artificial intelligence to mimic him, and he's sending messages to people on Facebook saying, "Hi, it's Brad Pitt. I'm in the hospital. Can you please help me?" So question everything. I don't know how we're going to deal with this, and I do a whole program on the intersection of social engineering, artificial intelligence leading to the rise of cybercrime. So really take care of that. Today, all the cyber criminals need to steal from you is one thing to make your life miserable. And you know what that thing is? Your username and password. That's it. And unfortunately today, there are billions and billions of usernames and passwords on the dark web. because the bad guys have done a lot of bad things. There was the Yahoo breach, 3.5 billion usernames and password. Facebook, who knows how many usernames and passwords Facebook has lost. LinkedIn, Ticketmaster, there's global breaches that impact all of us. So when these big breaches occur, what do they tell us to do? They tell us to change username and password. But there's one problem. Today, the cyber criminals have access to many usernames and passwords. So out of those billions of usernames and passwords, there are millions of iPhone users out there. How many people have an iPhone? Okay. In order to have an iPhone, you need an iCloud account. How many people are using the same password for their email as they are for their iCloud account? Don't make eye contact with me, okay? All right, no, that's not good, because, listen, I'm gonna have to come back and do an online. I'm gonna have to give everyone here a test. Then, because here's the deal. What can the bad guys do if, and Catherine, I'm gonna pick on you. What can the bad guys do if they get access to anyone's iCloud account?
They have access to everything, and they can pretend to be you to other people.
Well, yeah, that's pretty bad. But they're also going to get access to all of your usernames and passwords that you might have on your account. They can get access to your iCloud drive. They can get access to your Find My iPhone. So many of us have Apple Pay. We just see devastating things that happen when you get access, when the bad guys get access. And for everyone else in the room, don't think you're safe, because you have Android phones. And in order to have an Android phone, you have to have a Gmail account. And what do you think happens if the bad guy gets access to your Gmail account? What's he going to get? He's going to get access to every single thing, and it's going to make your life miserable. I had a case when I was with the FBI. I had an individual who had their life destroyed by a cyber criminal because their username and password was on the dark web. The bad guy was able to log into their Facebook account and take over their Facebook account and send messages out to all of their friends and family saying, hey, I need money. So that became victimized. They also were able to see what her email account was. Now here's the thing, she used the same email account, username and password, for her Facebook account as she did with her email account. When they read her email account, they saw where she banked. And they were able to get into all of her accounts. We tracked this cyber criminal down to, I believe it was Bangladesh. And how did we find this out? The cyber criminal used a US-based email provider. He used Gmail. We were able to get a search warrant for his account. Wasn't the smartest cyber criminal in the world, because he was using his personal Gmail account to do cybercrime activity. And in his personal Gmail account, he used Google Drive to store his passport and his mother's passport. So we were able to identify him. And unfortunately, you know, since we didn't have a treaty with that country, it became very, very challenging. All of that could have been prevented if that person didn't use the same password. Now, we're going to get into a point where we are going to talk about the next thing about this. And I want to ask you all a question. How many people here have heard of two-factor authentication? I need more people to raise their hand. Who hasn't heard of two-factor authentication? Two-factor authentication is a second form of authentication. I don't have anything from you, Poe. A two-factor authentication is a second form of authentication. If the bad guys steal your username and password, it is game over. They're able to get access to everything. Here's the one thing my cyber criminals didn't have. They did not have two-factor authentication. Every time I deal with a situation, every time I deal with an instance, I'm like, did you have two-factor authentication set up on your username and password? And they said no. And that's one of the problems that we see going through things. So what I want to do is I want to kind of talk a little bit, because all of this stuff is in the book. Okay, this is about having a cyber secure mindset. It's so important to be able to do it. So a lot of people go like this to me, Scott, I want to use the same password for all of my platforms. I don't want to put two-factor authentication on my stuff. And you know what my answer is? Okay. Listen, I used to say nobody wanted the guy from the government telling you what to do, and now nobody wants the guy who used to work for the government telling you what to do. But let's go back to the four truths of cybersecurity. Nobody ever expects to be a victim. I don't have anything worth stealing. Everyone here has something worth stealing. Number two is the bad guys steal your stuff. Law enforcement is not going to get your stuff back. Number three is putting the bad guys in jail is very, very challenging. And the cybercrime problem keeps getting worse. That's very upsetting. But remember the fourth truth. Most cybercrime incidents can be prevented if my end users were only armed with a couple of key pieces of information. And let's go through these pieces again so we know, and we're going to write them down, because maybe there might be a quiz on this, okay? I might ask you when I email you what were the steps that we have to take. Social engineering, number one tool in the cybercriminals tool belt. It's no longer emails. There's emails, there's text messages, there's telephone calls, there's QR code phishing, there's social media account hijacking. It's never going to come from a cyber criminal. It's going to look like it's coming from somebody you know and somebody you trust. It could be a charity. It could be a romance scam. It could be from a law enforcement officer. And remember, social engineering is tricking someone into doing something you normally wouldn't do. And through the use of artificial intelligence, it's going to look very real. And everyone has a phone. And the cyber criminals are attacking people who are my age and older, and also your age and younger. That's what makes it very, very challenging. So remember that. Number one, social engineering. Number two, we have to make sure that we are not using the same password for multiple accounts. Because if the bad guys steal one password, they're going to get access to every other password. So how do we build out a good password for ourselves? It's chapter 7 in the book. See, this is great. I don't even have to talk about it. Chapter 7 in the book, and everyone here will get a copy of the book. But how do you remember all of these long passwords? That's chapter 6 in the book, okay? Or we can get a password manager. Now, people tell me they got really good long passwords, but if you are not using two-factor authentication, you will become a victim. Two-factor authentication is something else besides a username and password. And that's chapter 8 in the book. Okay? We need to understand two-factor authentication, and it's usually a random 6-digit code that is either sent to you via a text message, email, or an authenticator app. The authenticator apps are probably the most secure, but they are a little bit more complicated. And let's just assume that you have all done that. You're all experts. You have all read my book. You are on your way to keeping yourself, your family, your coworkers safe. What do we have to worry about? We have to worry about everyone else in your life who isn't doing this. And that's just about everyone that we're dealing with today. So my message wasn't here to scare you. My message was to empower you, to say that cybercrime can be prevented. So what I'd like to do is see if there are any other questions or anything like that. Yeah, and my WhatsApp, I'm not getting a signal, so that's it. So what I want to do is take the next couple of minutes and make this your presentation on what do you want to know about, and for any other questions whatsoever. It was an honor to speak with you today, and let's open up the question and answer session.
So thank you very much, Mr. Scott Augenbaum, for your crucial presentation. So let's open the floor for the question. So ក្រុមជើញអង្គប្រទេសទាំងមូលសួរសំណួរចាដល់ speaker របស់យើង
First of all, I would like to praise my attitude and respect to Mr. Yunpa and Mr. Scott. They give the best presentations to us and a good experience to us to prevent us from cyber scams. Actually, I heard what, like in your presentation, I heard you told us about no boundary in cyberspace. Is this a good space for me? Because I saw a lot of cybers, like a lot of crime in online scam in our society. And today I would like to share my short story about online scams too. I got a notification to my email account, and they sent it to me. But sadly, I don't even check my email. So I believe everyone in here also have like this kind of notifications too. So the question today I want to ask you about how when we got a notification to our email, even we don't click on it, that we still have a chain that we got still our account to access our account, that we still got a chain to lose like that we still lose our sorry.
No, that's
I'm a little bit nervous. Did it still have a chain for us to lose our accounts to the cyber criminals?
Yes, and you know, we have to be very, very careful. We cannot control what the cyber criminals are going to do. So Google is not, you know, if there's a problem, if you think there's a problem, if you're going to get an email from Google saying that your account has been taken over, click on this link. Don't click on the link, log into your account. Okay? Because we can't stop all these things from happening. Google does a good job, and Yahoo and all these email accounts do a good job of blocking it. But we cannot block every bit of bad. And once we do, you know what they're going to do? They're going to hit you up on your telephone. Because now everybody wants my cell phone number. Everybody. We can't even keep that safe. So very important, and I think, you know, like you said, there are no boundaries in cyberspace. I walk the streets of Cambodia. I feel very, very safe. I want to say you have one of the most beautiful airports in the world. I have not seen an airport in the United States as beautiful and clean as yours. But you have to watch out when you're going to start scanning QR codes or if you're going to start getting messages. So I hope that answered your question. And if anyone here also, in the amount of time that we have, if you contact me through my website, if you have any other questions, I answer every question.
Also, Scott, to follow up, is there a risk of being a victim if you don't click on the link? So if you just get the email in your inbox, but you delete it, or you don't do anything and it sits there because you don't check your email, could they still access your account?
I never want to say never, but I do not worry about that. I get tons and tons of scam emails. I also get emails from people threatening me. I don't read them. You know, I just don't. I ignore it. You know, another thing too is just be careful on cyber extortion. Somebody might claim that they have access to your iCloud account or your iPhone account. Just delete those things. If you happen to deal with a cyber criminal, they want to engage you. They have nothing but time on their side. That's what we're working with the authorities on the scam compound, because now we're starting to deal with lots of people who are being driven by the finances there. But that was a very good question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Scott, for your wonderful presentation. That is very interesting. Just short question. In Cambodia, we officially use Telegram as the official communication channel. I know United States, you use like WhatsApp, that is as the channel for communication. But Telegram here, you talk to everyone, they are using Telegram. And by just connecting with the phone number. So phone number, we connect with the bank account and Telegram and everything, just one phone number. And like the case of my phone, every day somebody send message to my Telegram that, hey, your Telegram is not safe. You need to click on this link in order to secure your Telegram. So for people like me, it is okay. But because in Telegram, I know you're not talking about that, but in Telegram, if somebody just access on your number, they will send you two message. Is that you or is not you? So if you click on is that you, it means that somebody hacked your Telegram. But if you are lucky, you click on not you, it is okay, you are safe. So what would be your recommendation when on Telegram and on the security? Because
Yes.
Telegram here is the biggest issue.
Okay, so one of the things that I know for a fact that Telegram has two-factor authentication. If you do not have two-factor authentication set up on your Telegram and on your WhatsApp, you will become a victim. I don't use Telegram for one reason. My son was the victim of a scam on Telegram because he was in a Telegram group that was trying to sell these NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which I thought was a scam anyway, but he wanted to put his own money into it. And he got a message that he believed was from the channel administrator saying that it was, okay, we're ready to sell these NFTs for $200. Here's the link. So what do you think my son did? He clicked on the link and he sent $250 to a cyber criminal's Telegraph account. And he goes, Dad, you're the specialist in cybercrime. What do I do? And I was like, kid, you're out $200. Sorry, can't help you. I mean, so be very, very careful on who you're dealing with on those types of situation. I have personally set up a Google number. If you find me on social media, you can have my Google number. You will never reach me on my Google number. It will take it, it'll turn it into a message, and if it's real, I'm going to get back with you. I'm not giving out my real telephone number to people who I don't know.
So first of all, I would like to pay my high respect to Dr. Yongpo, Miss Catherine, Mr. Scott, teachers, and ladies and gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I got two questions to ask Mr. Scott. The first question is, if we use a long password, but I know that we can't remember it sometime, we wrote through the note. So is it safe for us, and does cybercrime can access to our account? And the second question is, why our online scam is increasing so fast in recent years? How to protect the victim from it? Do we need to create the system to manage all the cybercrime as well as the online scam? Thank you.
No, sure. First of all, I want to say to everyone, everyone's English is amazing. Okay? You know, in the United States, I took 6 years of Spanish. I can't speak a word of it, okay? And everyone here is that. Passwords. I use passphrases for my passwords. And what do? I put a special symbol and a number in the front. I'll use the same one in everything, but I want you to think about this. So I put a special symbol and a number in the front, and then I flip it in the back. So let's just say #7. 7 pound, front and back. Then I come up with a passphrase. Let's come up with a passphrase for my TikTok account. I can't remember my password for TikTok. But I'm going to take the first letter off of each word, and that's going to be in my phrase. Maybe I'll use very much, or I like this. And I will write down the phrases, because all you need to do is remember the phrase. And then you will just type those things in. I write those down. If you ever find my phrases, it means nothing to you. The problem with that is I'm always resetting passwords because I forget them all the time. You know, or I'll forget to write them down. But what I want you to do is come up with a long passphrase for your 5 most important passwords and just write them down. We need to do that with our mission-critical accounts. And when I give you access to the book, there's a bunch of downloads on how to set these up. So great question. Very, very important. But if you have a 20-character password and you don't have two-factor authentication, it's really useless. Why is cybercrime getting worse year after year? It's because more people are going online. And everything in our life is we're just not prepared to do everything. Everyone is building products with usability in mind, not security. When I go to a conference and I speak about two-factor authentication, maybe 10 or 15% of the population has two-factor authentication up. I've been talking about that for years. So how do we get people to take an extra step? Because today, if you go home and you talk to your family and you tell them, hey, we need to put two-factor authentication on our bank account, you know what they're going to say to you? I don't have a lot of money in my account. Why do I need to do that? But thank you for the question. Do we have time for another one?
I think probably 2 more questions.
2 more questions. I hope I get 2 more questions.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I would like to pay my high respect to Ms. Yongpo and Ms. Scott. Am I pronounce your word correctly? Yes. So my question is, what kind of solution can you help young people avoid away from online scams?
The solution, that's a great question. You know, it's through awareness, it's through education, it's through understanding the 4 truths. It's understanding that we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We can't wait for governments to put more regulations. Regulations are very important, but remember the regulations that we have, the cyber criminals don't read those regulations. It's taking those basic steps that we talked about today, understanding social engineering, understanding the scams, having the good passwords, using two-factor authentication, and stopping and slowing down how we do things. Those things that I talked about today, nobody has to go out and buy anything. We're not saying that you need to buy this or buy a product. I'm not even saying you need to buy my book. I'm going to give you the copy of the book. So those are the things. And take what you've learned, as you all are esteemed and you are future leaders. You are the hope for this problem. And every little bit helps. And it's even if it's going to start with you reading the chapter about how to keep children safe, because there are kids who are very young who are being victimized. Very excellent question. Thank you.
She want to ask another question, but I just want to give the chance to the other people. Okay.
First of all, I would like to pay my respect to Professor Yongpo, Ms. Katherine, and also Mr. Scott. And I have a simple question, to Mr. Scott. And my question is, why do online scams still succeed even when the people know they exist? And what warning signs do victims usually ignore about this thing? Yeah, thank you.
Great question. I'm going to sit here until my dying day trying to figure out why people still fall for scams. I've had people be victimized numerous times. I have told my niece in the United States, who's a teacher, at Thanksgiving we all get together, we all have our food in the US, we all argue, we all share too many opinions. And I'm the family member at Thanksgiving who always goes, "Did you put two-factor authentication on your account?" Until her Facebook account got taken over. And I said to her, "Did you put two-factor on it?" And she's like, "No." I go, "Didn't you read my book?" "Well, I forgot." And it's like I have that conversation with people. And that's why, you know, I'm like, what do you want me to do? I can't help you. So that becomes such a challenge, and as you all, as leaders, that is what you need to do. And even it's the personal leadership, it's the integrity to help your family. I wish I could answer why do people fall for these scams, and the scammers are going into it. The tools are available, and like I said, almost all of my victims who had an account compromised and money went out of their bank account, none of them used two-factor authentication. And like I said, that's not a silver bullet, because even if you do get two-factor authentication, you could get tricked by social engineering. And I'm trying to package this. I don't know how to sum it up. There's so much I could talk about, but I'm trying to come up with those 5 steps that we all could take today, and I hope I was able to do that. Thank you. Great question.
Any question? Maybe the guys? Just one. There is one last question. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize to me. You apologize to Poe.
So you said you track someone in Bangladesh and you're ready to capture the person, but you don't have the authority because they don't sign the treaty. So how could we convince them to sign a treaty?
Well, that becomes very, very challenging. And they were going to help us. Mm-hmm. Now, they were going to help us do this. We were working with them. We have great working relationships. It doesn't matter if there's a treaty or not a treaty. Sometimes this is the unbelievable work of the State Department of the U.S. government and the host countries. We do great work. So they were going to handle it themselves, and they were going to prosecute this guy in Bangladesh. We don't care in the United States as long as the bad guy goes to justice. But what ended up happening in this situation, as luck would have it, a couple of weeks after, so my FBI counterpart, who was over in Mumbai at the time, had relationships with the Bangladesh cyber unit. I didn't know Bangladesh had a cyber unit. I was excited they had a cyber unit. They were excited to work with us, and then there was a terrorism incident by ISIS, And that put everything on hold for about a year or so, and then I was able to retire. So that's what makes it challenging on that stuff. But when we talk back to this case and the victim, if the victim just would have had two-factor authentication on all of those accounts, she wouldn't have become a victim. So that's my whole thing of sharing that story from other people's failures so they don't, you and your family don't have to be the next victim. Excellent question.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude, let's give another warm round of applause to our speaker, Mr. Scott Augenbaum, for that crucial presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's session was a powerful reminder that while we cannot avoid the digital threats surrounding us, we also can certainly be prepared. So let's start our quote of our speaker, be smart, be safe, right? So may I take this opportunity to invite His Excellency Yong Po, Secretary General of the Royal Academy of Cambodia, to present the souvenir to our speaker, Mr. Scott Augenbaum, and Ms. Katherine Diop.
Thank you, my friend.
So thank you very much for joining us today, and let's have a secure day.